So good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Jean-Luc Perit. I am the Logistics and Communications Manager for the Fab Foundation. International Fab Lab Network members from more than 450 labs in 55 countries are gathering in August in the birthplace of the Fab Lab concept. Here to give us slide 0, history and background, Director of the Center for Bits and Atoms, Professor Neil Gershenfeld. Neil.
Thanks, Jean-Luc. I'm delighted to have so many friends gathered. If this event can gather this group of people together, it's a good thing. So I'm going to spend just a few minutes to explain what this is all about, and then hand off to colleagues. So I direct MIT's Center for Bits and Atoms. It was created originally by an NSF investment to create a facility to make anything of any size, to look at how digital relates to physical. And the research broadly is examining how bits become atoms and atoms become bits, how you go back and forth between them. We're following a roadmap that leads up to the replicator. In 20 years, we think we can build atomic assemblers that can make anything. And there's a very strong historical parallel. This is a PDP mini computer. MIT developed the TX computers that became the PDPs from DEC, and that started the computer industry and created the internet, and now we have personal computing everywhere. In 1952, MIT created the first computer-controlled manufacturing machine, and now we're recreating that history to digitize fabrication. So there's a very close historical parallel, and that's the research we're doing. The reason we're gathered today for this event coming this summer is around that research roadmap, with millions of dollars of tools on campus, I started teaching a class called How to Make Almost Anything, and hundreds of students would try to take a class for 10 people, and that's when I got something bigger is happening. I'd thought about how to do this, but not why to do it, and the students were answering a question I didn't ask, which is, what is digital fabrication good for? And the answer is personal fabrication. And so in turn, for outreach, we started setting up community labs. And so we put together a facility that looks like this one, about 100K worth of stuff. And think of it like the mini computer. It'll eventually fit in your pocket in the same way that the mini computer now becomes a smartphone in your pocket. But you didn't have to wait for the smartphone to invent the internet, video games, word processing, all of that. And that's the historical moment we're living through. So for outreach for the NSF, rather than talk about what we're doing, we had the idea of giving people the tools. And Bill Mitchell introduced me to Mel King. And with Mel's pioneering work bringing computing, video production into the city, then computing, communication, it was a natural next step to bring fabrication. So the very first lab we did with Mel, and that's where we met Donalyn and her family and many others. From there, an accident happened, which is with the tools in the Fab Lab, you can make everything I'm showing in this picture: boats, bicycles, furniture, radios, consumer electronics, all of that you can do today. And from that first Fab Lab, the accident is this. There's about 500 now. We're approaching 500. We notice they're doubling about every year and a half. And with that platform, it's building a global network analogous to the creation of internet, but where data becomes things and things become data. And that's led to creating foundations and funds and degree programs to scale with it. In the upper right is a Fab Lab we set up at the White House for the White House Maker Faire. And what's going there is much larger than it looks. It's not just embracing outreach. When you think of manufacturing, you think of the picture on the left. But the Fab Labs are creating all sorts of new jobs and spaces on the right. In the same way that personal computers disrupted mini computers, what we're finding is the new jobs aren't coming back to the old factories. They're coming to this new world created by personal fabrication. And so once a year, all these labs meet. Last year, it was in Barcelona. This global community that's building the structure for how do you live, learn, work, and play if anybody can make anything, My colleague Vicente Gayart, who started the first Fab Lab, is now the city architect. And in each district in Barcelona, he's setting up a Fab Lab as urban infrastructure. So the notion is if you live in the city, the means to create is part of the facilities of the city. The city provides clean water or electricity. Now the city provides the means to create. And the end of that event was this very dramatic moment where this is Mayor Trias, the mayor of Barcelona, and he pushed a button that started a 40-year clock. And that 40-year clock is to self-sufficiency, to Barcelona producing what it consumes. It's not protectionism, it's globally connected for knowledge. The bits come and go, but the idea is the atoms stay in the city, Barcelona can produce what it consumes. And that unpacks to all sorts of questions with a really interesting research roadmap progressing very, very quickly. And so if anybody can make anything, aid, education, industry, all the ways we organize society get turned on their head, and the grand project isn't the technology, that's kind of humming along, it's how do you create that world? And so once a year, this amazing lab network meets, and after 10 years, that's what's coming back here. We're delighted to be hosting it from MIT with a number of other schools, including Harvard, and then working very closely with the cities of Boston, Somerville, and Cambridge. So are we going to go to the cities next? Okay. So with that, I'm delighted to introduce representatives of each of the cities participating and hosting the meeting. Why don't we start with Mayor Joe from Somerville.
Good afternoon and welcome, and thank you, Neil. We're excited, Somerville, to join Cambridge and Boston and the region to welcome the Fab Conference back to what we believe is the most innovative and creative region anywhere in the world. Somerville itself is building the framework so that the Fab movement can grow. We want to provide the means for production and enable collaborative creativity. Because it's good for the environment, it's good for the economy, it's good for the community. Digital fabrication, as we all know, when paired with green energy sources, can make manufacturing more sustainable than it is today and more achievable than it is today. Innovation that is really fueling the new industrial revolution helps fuel a growing economy, a new economy, creating new jobs and new industries. And as a community and as a region, it really helps us reclaim and adapt older buildings and rebuild neighborhoods. In buildings of the past, we're actually building our future. We already have in Somerville, and you can see it in different quarters and sectors of these cities that are here today, and other cities in this region, we see makers and artisans and hackers and fabricators and the creative class working in digital fabrication. And what is happening is when we provide the means to produce in the environment, these innovators are bumping into those working in the green tech and other fields. And it's really sparking imagination and new ideas. And we know burning curiosity, which is feeding imaginations and producing incredible outcomes and opportunities. Again, in Somerville, we're really working to make sure that we provide that means to produce and enable collaborative creativity. Even in our new reforming zoning ordinance, we've created a fabrication overlay district. We want to produce and provide the spaces for this environment to flourish. And really, this overhaul introduces the fabrication district. So really, no longer will we see those old buildings where you can create that bump factor where people transform just simply to luxury condos, but where are the spaces where this type of activity and creativity can flourish? How can we as a municipality deliver and create the policies to enable ideas to flourish? So we're excited because it's a new revolution. Local production is part of our history. In some ways, digital production is a return to our roots, and it's really an investment in the future that is vibrant, that is self-sufficient and self-sustaining, and part of a resilient future we should build not just in Somerville, Cambridge, and Boston, but the region should lead ahead, and the state should lead ahead of any other region in the world. So I want to thank the Fab Foundation and the Center for Bits and Atoms and Professor Neil Gershenfeld for inviting me here today, and I look forward to when we push that and pull that lever as well and start the clock, and excited to work with all our partners and stakeholders in this. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
So from the city of Somerville, we're going to turn to the city of Cambridge. Next up is City Councilman Nadim Mazen.
Howdy, folks. My name's Nadim Mazen. I'm a city councilor in Cambridge. I also happen to be the owner of a kind of a Fab Lab type thing, a makerspace called Danger Awesome. Cambridge is home to incredible institutions, MIT and Harvard, Google, Microsoft. This technology we're talking about is the future of so many disciplines here. And it's not just for high tech, and it's not just for manufacturing. It's really about access, and it's about workforce development as well. We literally have people living in the shadow of big tech and big biotech asking, why can't I get a job in that space? Why can't I get involved in what's cool and what's fun? Why can't I have that impact in my everyday education or in my ongoing learning as an adult? These technologies that we're talking about in Fab 10, Fab 11, the Fab Foundation in general, makerspaces all over the world, are happening today. This isn't future stuff. You know, this is the stuff that's going on in Cambridge. It's going on in Somerville. It's even going on in Boston. And in the future, and in the future, you can imagine the impact it's going to have on education, economic mobility, and society. So Cambridge is extremely excited to host, and more importantly, to participate in Fab 11 alongside the other cities in the region. And we're excited to have workshops and breakouts in our makerspaces. We have a kind of a corridor of makerspaces emerging along Mass Ave, and a host of for-profit and nonprofit institutions at MIT and Harvard, at other universities and breakout spaces across the city, and to even to make, you know, semi-permanent structures together, and to include and involve our kids, our educators, our pedagogical researchers in the play of the next generation of tangible learning, hands-on learning, but also the type of manufacturing and fabrication that, as Neil said, is going to absolutely revolutionize the way we produce and the way we become sustainable. Thank you very much.
So our next speaker is synonymous with the phrase, love is the question and the answer. Here to read a statement from Boston City Mayor Marty Walsh, and to share his own thoughts on Fab 11, founder and director of the South End Technology Center, Mr. Mel King.
Before I begin, I want to share with you, so you're aware. What does it say?
It reads, I'm a mechanical engineer. I build and design with CAMs. Learn to teach, teach to learn.
Okay. Neil?
Yeah. I think, will you pin it on? The ceremony.
Okay.
I feel like I should know.
You gotta tell them what it says.
Oh, it's a different one.
Yes.
Ooh, I'm a physical programmer. I use sensors and motors to invent. Yep.
All right. We'll get Cambridge's theirs shortly. It's okay. I've been asked to read this statement by the Mayor of Boston, Martin J. Walsh. We're excited to welcome Fab 11 to the Boston area this year. In Boston, we're working with our partners in Cambridge, Somerville, and throughout the region on expanding maker spaces so the great ideas that are born here can be brought to market here as well as around the world. Congratulations to the MIT Center for Bits and Atoms and the Fab Foundation for their tremendous work and their incredible contributions to the maker community. And that's from Martin J. Walsh. I have a sticker for him. I can build with alternative energy. I made a squishy circuit with a solar panel, all right? So, and I will make sure that he gets the word this afternoon. I want to take this opportunity also to thank Neil, Sherry, Pamela, and the folks who really started this, I don't want to call it a revolution, but maybe it's an evolution around the world. And I was really thrilled when he came by to talk about the center being one of the places where they could demonstrate what was possible with this technology. A personal story, at 9, 10 years of age, I used to go to a community center in the South End. And we learned to make kites. And I made a kite, it went out and ran down the street, and it went up. And, you know, you couldn't tell me anything, right? I was so proud of what I had accomplished because I had made something that worked. And as I did my work with youth over the years, one of the things that I really believed in was getting them involved in developing things so that when we started the Fab Lab, became a real natural thing for us to be involved because I recognized the power of being a maker on one's self-image, and we thought that if we could begin to get the youth involved in it, that they would see themselves differently, they'd see others like them differently, and we could do something about some kind of cultural change. And so, as a result of what's happened, we have children who, says your startup dish is almost full. We have children who walk out of our centers with these on, proudly sharing them with their other friends and their family at home. And so we built a kind of relationships because we've used some of their older brothers and sisters as models for them. And so as a result, we're not only talking about the technical things that come from the earth, we're also talking about the relationships that come from the heart. And so we like to talk about the technology of the heart as well. And I can assure you that getting the children involved in ways where some of their older children do like they did at one of our neighborhood centers, where the tweeners, who had been taught by the high school youth, said to the leader, how come we can't teach the 5, 6, and 7-year-olds what we've learned? And so it's a way, because they feel good about themselves, wanting to have the other children feel good about themselves as well. So we can talk about maker spaces, and of course that's very significant, but in the long run, it's making love that is the thing that's really going to make this world go round. Thank you. Just one little thing. Always. I have here something made by a 3D printer of one of the folks. And can you see what it says? I didn't hear it. What does it say? All right. Okay. And when we say makes the wheel go round, you got it? Okay. Good. Oh, this belongs now at your place.
Okay.
So we have a quick announcement from Neil before we continue on.
So before we go on with Fab 11, I wanted to mention one other thing that just happened today or late yesterday related to Fab 11, which is the remaining physicist in Congress, Bill Foster, just put in a bill. And the idea of this bill is to take what we're talking about doing in Boston and do it on a national scale. It's to charter a national network of community labs as a new notion of a national laboratory in the US as being in the national interest. And it's not appropriating money, it's chartering it as being a public-private partnership. And so the activities in Boston, this is a larger national context for it. And Bill is one of many people who's going to be coming to Fab 11 to talk about this.
Okay, cool. So quick technical note, our Google Hangout did drop midway through Mel's speech, but we do have a recording going on, so this will be available online on the Fab 11 website and all social media, so we'll be able to go back through this and catch anything you guys may have missed. So now we'll hear about what to expect from Fab 11. Here she is, president of the Fab Foundation herself, Ms. Sherry Lassiter.
Thank you. Mine says, I fabricated my own toy design on a laser cutter in the Fab Lab. And it's true, I did. Thank you, Mel. Really, thank you all for coming today and for your time. I have had the great honor and pleasure of helping Professor Gershenfeld and some of the other people in this room build the Global Fab Lab Network. Back in 2001, when we actually started this process, you know, I was sort of a communicator. I was a video and television producer, and decided kind of I was tired of telling the story. I just wanted to become a part of the story. And so the rest is history. I think I took How to Make Almost Anything, and I never looked back. It was such an incredible experience, an incredible learning experience and catalytic learning experience, both from a technical perspective, but also from a creative perspective. And so, in 2009, we spun off the Fab Foundation. Let me get over here. Let's see. Oh dear. Oh, there it is. There it is. Got it. Oh, no, that's not where I'm going.
Okay.
Where did my point go? There it is. Shit. Move. There we go. And so the Fab Foundation is one of the hosts of this great meeting that's coming up in August 3rd through 9th. It's a whole week that celebrates creativity, making, playing, and digital fabrication. And as you've now heard, it's a global gathering of more than 700 people this year from about 55, 60 countries. And so we're very, very excited to welcome this community back to Boston now that it's grown so much. This is the foundation. We have we hang our shingle down the street on Mass Ave. We opened in 2009 to help support the growth of the international network and to help provide the glue that will allow that network to grow and provide economic opportunity to people in communities all around the world. And very, very happy to be a part of that mission. Fab 11 will happen in Boston, Cambridge, and Somerville. The week is divided into a 3-day sort of conference and workshops for the international network. There's a 1-day academic symposium, and then there is a 2-day Fab Festival, so a celebration, a citywide or region-wide celebration of making. The workshops and the sort of conference will happen here at in this building and all around MIT, as well as across at some of the other university campuses and Fab Labs around the city, like the South End Technology Center and Harvard University. We will do the 1-day symposium, which we're calling Making Impact. We will do that at the Boston Symphony Hall, and there'll be about 2,000 people. It's open to the public event. There'll be about 2,000 people. And really what we're doing there is we're celebrating the makers that have come out of this movement and the kind of impact that they're having, which I'll talk about a little bit more. And then we'll sort of close the week of conference activities at the J.F. Kennedy Library, where we're going to hold a clam bake, in essence. So that'll be kind of fun. But a little bit about the symposium. Maybe wrong computer. Okay, so the speakers for our symposium, we're drawing from the community of people here at MIT that have taken How to Make Almost Anything, and our global cohort, which now numbers, the graduates number a few hundred from around the world, who have gone on to do really interesting and wonderful things in the world. We have people from, some of our students have been, work with Google, work with Twitter, work with Facebook. They have started new businesses, new global businesses, and are having impacts in their communities all around the world. So we're very, very excited to welcome them. We will also be having, oops, wrong one. We'll also have during the week and also on during the symposium, we will have these conversations, these sort of interesting groups of people that we're pulling together around issues that are beginning to impact us around the world. One of them will be around the National Fab Lab Network bill, which Congressman Foster will lead. Fab cities, so we will pull together the policymakers and people in governance in these 3 cities and regionally to talk about how you can support or how they can support this community as it grows and contributes to our economic development. 3D scanning for Hollywood. There's some really interesting work coming up in that arena, and then of course robotics. There will be a few more, but these are the ones that we're developing so far. Okay. And then we have this wonderful 2-day celebration that is going to be across all 3 cities, where it's in essence a huge Fab festival where people get together and they do hands-on activities. There'll be talks, there'll be panels, there'll be some kinds of performances in essence, and the Boston base for the festival will be at the Reggie Lewis Center, and then we haven't yet quite decided. It looks like Assembly Square may be the center for Somerville, and in Cambridge we haven't decided yet. We haven't come to a conclusion yet as to where it will be. It might even be here at MIT. But our great and fun and exciting partner in this is going to be the City Awake project. So they did a beautiful project in December, a big project citywide where they brought in organizations who are making social impact in the world, and they did it in this incredible distributed way using online tools, et cetera. They have offered to provide the platform for the Fab Festival, the Cross City Fab Festival. So we're very, very excited about that as well. And of course, none of this would be possible without sponsorship and buy-in from the community. And Sarah Boisvert, who runs the Fab Lab Hub, which is a tremendous sort of organization that pulls together and promotes and disseminates information about the Fab Lab Network. So, Sarah, would you like to come up?
Well, as Les pointed out, none of this could happen without the financial resources that we need from sponsors. And we are extremely fortunate to have two long-term sponsors that we've worked with on a very close basis, one of which is Chevron, with whom we have a very large project to open a number of Fab Labs across the country. It's a $10 million project where they have made a huge commitment, particularly to STEM education. And our second big partner is SolidWorks. That is for those of you who don't know, a software program that's used heavily in digital fabrication. SolidWorks has made a phenomenally generous contribution to all of our Fab Labs to have the access to professional versions of the software, which is a huge contribution. The software commercially sells for about $10,000, and they've made that available to all of our Fab Labs throughout the world, which is wonderful. And they've come beyond that and are also helping us with Fab 11. We have a lot of production partners who are people that we have worked with in the world who are people who manufacture equipment and supplies and things that we use. And we're fortunate today to say that one of our partners is here today because their plant is in Somerville, and that, of course, is our representative from Formlabs. And thank you so much. And I've been communicating with them because I actually tried to buy a printer, and concurrently with that, Neil, of course, has close ties with Formlabs as the founders came out of CBA. We've worked for a long time with Epilog Lasers, with Roland, with Autodesk, and a large number of other partners who are stepping up to the plate and helping us with not just financial backing, but also with the access to equipment for our workshops and the things that are going on in the throughout the week of Fab 11. One of the really gratifying things that happens at Fab 11 is we do get scholarship sponsorship, and this is a photograph of some young men from Togo who, because of their scholarship, were able to enter into the challenge that happens every year where we award a group that has one of the most outstanding projects. And these young men have the idea, the West in our infinite wisdom, we send our trash to our e-trash, or e-waste, to countries like Africa that don't have the kinds of environmental laws that we have in the US. And what they end up doing is burning it, and we all know how bad that is, not just for the health of the environment, but the health of their population. And these young men at the Fab Lab in Togo had the idea to go to the waste dumps and collect the e-waste and make 3D printers that they could then sell at a much reduced cost from what you could buy in a Western market. So it's a really gratifying project, and they would not have won if they really hadn't been able to get the resources to come and be part of Fab 10. And we're looking forward to having more groups through this year's projects. And, oh, we missed a, I guess we lost a slide. Maybe not. But we're looking, one of the big things we're doing is raising funds to bring in more of these kinds of really innovative and inspiring groups from around the world. We're going to, we have some time for questions. I think we lost our group online, but let me see if I'm back with them. So he had muted them. I have to unmute them. Because I know that Land had a question, because he's emailed me already today. You know, Land, I can't hear you. Yeah, I unmuted it here.
Let's see, we can...
Here we go.
Yep.
Yep.
Can you hear me?
Yes,
yes.
Go ahead.
Terrific. Okay. A land grant in New York City at 3DP Media. I'm quite aware that Boston is a great center for healthcare on very many levels. Is there a crossover in the program that would bring in healthcare issues as multiplied by Fab Labbing?
So the question is about healthcare, and there are healthcare connections at maybe 5 levels. The deepest is in the research we'll be talking about. There's a very close collaboration, which is rapid prototyping of machinery for biology research. So one of the hardest things in whole genome synthesis is actually loading genes into cells, and there's a close collaboration on making machines to put genes into cells. So that's a research piece. Then one step back from that, the how to make almost anything class is spawning a second class in what's growing into what we're now calling, the name was a joke, but it stuck, the Academy of Almost Anything, Academy, where the idea is today we have 50 sites participating in the Fab Lab, all in real time globally. So a video conference like this, but with like 200 video ports in use, where we teach digital fabrication. The second class we're teaching is how to grow almost anything, and that's led by my colleague George Church at Harvard, where you use a Fab Lab to make a biolab, and then you teach biotechnology. And so we're going to be hoping to kick that off this fall, to have this recursion of Fab Labs making biolabs. And then finally, even closer in, there's a lot of very short-term projects. Like a very early one that's very successful is rapid prototyping of prosthetics. And a number of partners participating in Fab 11 are doing projects to make custom prosthetics on demand, which is a classic of high-value production with great impact that really needs to be different for each person. So those are examples sprinkled across. Mel wants to say something.
What we've done with the youth is develop games on the systems of the body so that they understand how those systems work as part of their health thing. First year they did the diet, the dietary system. Last year, the immune system. This year, they'll pick another system to work on. And the amount of information they get that they can share with this has a lot to do with people's idea about their own personal health.
Yep, so Mel described how in Teach to Learn, Learn to Teach, they're teaching the kids about their bodies as part of the Teach to Learn, Learn to Teach, focusing on different parts of the body. Okay?
Does that answer your question, Land? We've lost him again.
Thank you.
Yep.
No, thank you very much. It did indeed address my question. I'm delighted to hear it.
Good.
Great. Land writes for 3D printing industry.
Okay.
Any other questions? We will have the video recording of the entire press conference today available online, and in a few days, however long it takes for us to get it back from the AV department. And if you have any questions, there'll be contact information of how to reach us. And thank you all so much for coming today. Oh, yes. How can we forget snacks? Are they out in the lobby? Oh, okay. So we have refreshments, which sadly all of you online don't get to have. I'll send you cookies, Land.
Thank you.
Thanks so much. Thanks for coming.